had never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, g'day, folks. Turn my light on so you can see me a little bit easier, or maybe just get the shiny spots on my head going right. How you been? Have a good weekend, did you? I hope you didn't party too hard and you steered clear of the dickheads that usually monopolise the road at that time, the weekends. I mean, g'day, Gomez. You were in first up. Good to have you, mate. You were circumcised without your knowledge in 1953. Have you left it too late for a claim? Quite possibly. We'll see. I don't think you're going to have much luck. That would be interesting to see whether or not they were doing any stem cell research on you at that age. And me at 1965, for that matter. G'day, Deb. You're a bit early. I hope you've managed to get back. Wayno from Wilmo's in town, the Stony Creek Bush Camp Caravan Park. Remember, folks, we'd like to get there if you would like to come for a bit of a trip into South Australia, into the foothills, if you like, of the Flinders Ranges. Then the Stony Creek Bush Camp Caravan Park with one of our family, Wayno from Wilmo, that's Wilmington, is very happy to have us. And we're trying to organise something. I've got to get on the phone and firm up dates again, but we're trying to get something going for a little later on this year, probably after the cruise, which is happening May 4 to 8. The lovely Sandy is in town tonight. Hope you are doing well, Sandy, after the loss of Lady last week. Very sad news. But some beautiful news from Sandy over the weekend is that 18, maybe 19 of the donkeys are going on a little, well, call it a holiday if you like. They're going to get a scenery change for a while. Now, this scenery change requires you, if you are planning to go to the Royal Easter Show in Sydney, we would love you to take some photos and some video maybe of the 18 or 19 donkeys from the Sanctuary that will be performing every night, I believe, at this year's Royal Easter Show. You may recall a few years ago, a number of the donkeys were used in a production at, I think it was first of all in Caboolture it was seen, but it was tested there, and then for however many nights the Royal Easter Show runs, and it was all about Simpson and his donkey in World War I and all that sort of stuff. May, who we talk about a lot, was a star of that. Well, she won't be going on this run, unfortunately. It's boys only, but 18 of them heading off. But we want to get some video of them performing and some photos of them. Now, if you are able to do that for me, I might be able to slip you a ticket that gets you backstage at the Royal Easter Show in Sydney, and you won't have to pay to get in. You'll get a couple of days access, and in return, all you'll need to do is supply me a bit of video and a bit of pictures. Not just me, Sandy too. She wants them because, unfortunately, due to family commitments with Baz, and for those that don't know, Baz lost his brother a little while back. They have a family reunion every year at about the same time the Royal Easter Show is on. That family reunion's up near Mackay, and the Royal Easter Show is in Sydney. Clearly, she can't be in two places at once. So we are really looking for a little bit of help there if you're going. I know a couple of people who might be able to help, but if you want to stick your hand up, please email me, carl@vofhq.com. We're pretty serious. We want your help with this, though, so don't go faffing me about. There are a couple of things you have to provide, including a photo for ID purposes and all that sort of stuff. You're going to get a very official badge if you go. So, yeah, be serious about it. Please help us out if you can. That would be great. And Sandy would love that. Hello, Aussie Sue. God love you. Hope you are doing well. And Pete, my mate in South Australia, I hope you are doing well. G'day, Addy. G'day, or Adi. Quite sure how to say that one. And who else have I missed in there? Probably quite a few, but I've got a guest waiting in the background, so I don't want to wait too much longer. Now, this guest is responsible for me learning a new word over the weekend, and that new word is going to be put to good use, I hope, into some of our merchandise. Why? Because I just think it's a great word, and when I first heard it, I thought, you're full of shit. But it turns out this word means exactly what we say it means. Kakistocracy. It means government by the worst people. It's a real word. Go and look it up. So, look, there is a word for shit government, kakistocracy. And then I had to play with this one, kakistocracy, shit people running shit government, weaponize your vote, stop shit people running shit government. You might be able to get that on your coffee cup or something shortly if I can figure out how to cross it over onto where you can buy it at our merch shop at merch.vofhq.com and just hit the shop button. But I would like to thank the man from the corruption whistleblower, Peter Horton, for bringing me up to date with what kakistocracy means. Pete, what a wonderful word. And it couldn't describe the Australian government, could it?
Absolutely. There's no better word. And it's a technical word, but it's very true.
Yeah. And get the cack out of Canberra, I think, might be another T-shirt design that I've got somewhere in the back of the mind coming forward, because there really is a pile of shit in Canberra. Whether or not we can change that by voting remains to be seen, but the corruption whistleblower, along with, quite a few other people, are in league at the moment to see if changes can't be made in other directions, Pete. So people have known of the corruption whistleblower, obviously, for the 4 editions that you've put out so far, and, of course, for the grand jury that I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to be part of last February down in Canberra when we got into the old Parliament House Senate Gardens and managed to indict all the sitting parliamentarians. It was bloody beautiful. So there are plans afoot to do it all again, but not in Canberra. Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so look, we're trying to find a suitable place in Melbourne to run the grand jury down there. We'll be running not only the constitutional stuff this time, but we'll be running the Port Arthur, the council, and the child abduction racket in this nation down there. It does appear we got massive interest down there, and it looks we may have, well, we're hoping for 2,000 to 4,000 jurors. So we had a few hiccups with trying to find a location, because obviously everywhere you try to find somewhere in Melbourne, they all want 15,000, 18,000 for a venue of 2,000 to 5,000 people.
Yeah.
So what we've done now is we've started looking, and it is a far superior idea anyhow, and far cheaper. Is we're looking for, so if any of the viewers see anything out there, we're looking for a factory that's a large factory, probably 3,000 to 4,000 square meters, something that's up for lease that we can hire for the weekend. So that'll enable us to have car parking. We won't have the coppers, sniffing around like if we did it at a park, or, even when we had in Canberra, as you remember, Carl, we had the security rush in sort of at the end of it. They worked out very quickly that we weren't a threat to anybody, but they did somehow press that red alert button to send the head honcho in to go, well, what's going on here? But it was a big laugh down there, especially afterwards. We sort of got the jump on them and ran the grand jury in the Parliament House. But however, when we ran it in Canberra, it was difficult for people to travel that distance down there. So we're hoping that in Melbourne, it's a stone throw, or, an hour's drive rather than 6, or, some people drove 8 and 10 hours to that event. Some people drove from Brisbane, Sydney, some from Melbourne, and it was a big ask. But in the end, it's a job that's been done inside their Parliament House. But the next one, as I said to you, will be in Melbourne, be a much bigger event. And we're hoping to have a number of prosecutors, so it won't just be me, because it's a lot to remember and a lot to get right. And there are other people that are far more specialised in, like if we can get somebody to prosecute the Port Arthur, we're hoping for certain people to stick their hands up. We won't mention any names here, but failing that, there'll be one of us that has their head around the information that'll be able to run that. So we're hoping the trial will go for about 3 hours. And when we finally get the date and the place, which we're hoping to be able to announce that in the next couple of weeks, we will just merely be asking people to, bring your own fold-up chair and bring one for somebody else. And then that way, if we get a factory or somewhere like that, which we will, we've just got to keep searching. We can have people start turning up at 10 o'clock. We'll throw a barbecue on. and then start the event probably about 1 o'clock. It'll run till 4 o'clock, and it'll be sort of, not only will it be a grand jury, everyone will be able to meet and greet there. So it's definitely going to be an interesting event, and on private property, so we don't have that issue with the people we don't like at the moment that much.
Yeah, accessing it. Yeah. And we will live stream it. I think it was Rita who wanted to ask, will it be available to watch in other states online? Yes, it will. We will live stream it. So have no doubt about that at all.
Thank you to Carl, who's offered his services. Carl's a very great man. Yes. Very
happy. I've reached out to a few people in Melbourne today and yesterday. And I'll send you an email after the show, but there is one, maybe two venues in the west of Melbourne that might hold some potential for us. And they're capable of holding, one's capable of holding 1,000 people or so, and the other one's a little bit bigger. But if there is anybody in Melbourne or even on the outskirts of Melbourne, I mean, would you be prepared for places like Bacchus Marsh or Berwick or I don't know, Berwick's probably in Melbourne these days. There's some quite nice facilities just on the outskirts of Melbourne around. So
sure,
would you be open to those? Yeah.
I mean, people don't mind driving an hour and a half, even 2 hours to come to an event like this. It just makes it easier. They can, leave their houses in the morning and go home but sleep at night time without the intense travel process. But yeah, we definitely look at anywhere within a couple of hours from Melbourne. And we did contemplate, and we do have a couple of people with some open properties, but, the Melbourne weather's too unpredictable. We don't want to plan an event where we're going to get rained out or anything like that. So definitely has to be a factory, preferably 2,000 to 3,000 square meters with some car parking and some toilet facilities.
Yeah. We don't want anything in the factory, like an empty warehouse or a loading docks or something like that would work. So,
something that's up for lease.
Yeah, something that's up for lease, and they want to make a little bit of money for the weekend would help out.
Correct, that'd be great.
One of the things that is that you and your team are also working on is the victim impact statement that you've spent a great deal of time putting together. That is available for people to download at corruptionwhistleblower.com and at vofhq.com. I'll bring it up very quickly, Pete, just so people can see what this is. Do you just want to explain, first of all, what this is, and then why it's important for people to fill it in and return it?
Well, it's exceptionally important for people to fill in because no matter which court, and we are going to be filing them into 4 international courts at a minimum. The International Court of Justice will be the first one, and the International Criminal Court will probably be the first one. They have their own prosecutors there, so we won't have to prosecute the case. But I don't want to talk about that too much. But these impact statements, what they mean is that instead of just a small group of us going over there and lobbying the prosecutor or lobbying the International Criminal Court, and we'll be doing that in person. What we'll be doing is not only the grand jury indictments, which we already have about 450 signatures on those, witnesses that have witnessed the crimes that we've outlined and signed the indictment form. And obviously when we get to Melbourne, we'll have those ones as well. But in conjunction with that, we want to be able to have the victim impact statement. So, and there's some most incredible, horrific crimes. And because we really are on the front line, we get called all the time, and it is incredibly distressing when we get people ringing up with us, saying, what can we do? We never give her advice, but what we do is we do give them a bit of a shoulder to lean on. But it's such a big eye-opener to see how many people have rung us because of the Corruption Whistleblower newspaper and exposed their story. So that sort of led to the idea of the victim impact statement that we would like to get 4,000 or 5,000 of these signed by the people. And then that way we would not only have all the evidence that we'll be putting in there and into the 4 courts, one of them will be the American courts under the RICO Act. Sorry?
A lot of interest in that act at the moment. A lot of interest in that act
There
at the
is.
moment.
There is.
Yeah.
And so obviously the victim impact statements give huge credibility, and many people may have heard the ICC and the ICJ, people are sending their information to them and asking them to indict. But if you have a look at section 268.12, section 268, 121 and 122, that gives the Attorney General the veto powers, and 122 gives you no right of recourse based on that section 268, 121.
So just explain what that means to the layman, Pete.
That means that you can't file into the International Criminal Court or the International Court of Justice without the approval of the Attorney General. So we worked out a way around that when we did the grand jury indictment in Parliament House, and obviously I made a mistake there. We didn't work it out. It fell in our laps because we made the Attorney General one of the people that we were prosecuting, and therefore now it becomes a conflict of interest for him to block it. And this is why the grand jury indictments are so important. If we can get up to sort of 2,000 to 3,000 indictments signed by people, then, we've got not only one of us filing in there, there's, 3,000 people.
Of numbers. Yeah.
Well, that's right. All saying that he's compromised, and therefore that section 268, 121 and 122 can't apply. It shouldn't apply anyway, because that book's got the kangaroo and emu on it anyway. But what we're going to talk about today is some more stuff that we've learned, is that the Constitution is dead, and anybody that says it isn't just needs to keep researching, and they'll soon find out that it certainly is, and it's been dead for, all of 100 years, so back to 1920. But anyway, getting quickly back to this victim impact statement, they're so critically important to have these numbers up. Once again, we'll have the grand jury indictments and then the 5,000 victim impact statements. It tells a story on its own. And so any court that doesn't accept them, international court doesn't accept them or rejects our position of filing, you would have to say, really they would be mental, because the evidence would be overwhelming. So that's the plan of attack with this thing.
So the idea is fill in the blanks, essentially, although the blanks in this case are anything that's red. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah. It's a very easy document to follow along and fill in.
That's correct.
And
yes, we've spelled it right out.
Once you've done it, there is a plan you need to follow as well.
Yes, it's not that hard. You get it sworn in, and you would essentially get 2 copies sworn in, one to keep for yourself, and then you can scan one in and email it to us and post us the original. And where the post office box is on that page there. And the Rome statutes in relation to war crimes, genocide, crimes of aggression, on that page there as an annexure. So you can go through the annexure, it's underneath, and work out which crimes you believe that they have committed against you. And they've committed all of those crimes against all of us in one way or another. So, so that's about all I've got to say about the victim impact statement, except I encourage everybody to download it, file it in. We've all been affected, but some of us have been viciously affected more than some of the people know. And we know because we get called all the time about it. And sometimes it's quite difficult to, live a peaceful day when you know all this stuff. But it also empowers us to keep moving forward.
It does indeed. And you're encouraged in the affidavit to fill in anything like, I was coerced into getting the jab. I didn't want it when I eventually did get it. And bear in mind, the jab may not kill you. What it does is it exacerbates, or it's been shown to exacerbate things inside you that might be turning and give them a little kick, a little boost. That appears to be what the science is now saying. So if you've been affected and you've had anything new pop up into your life, particularly with respiratory issues or blood issues or kidney issues or that sort of stuff, there is a very high likelihood that at some point in the future, direct links will be shown if they haven't already been shown. But right now they're suspected. So there are so many of us that have been affected, even the kid who's lost their parent and parents who've lost their kids. There are people who've been affected by the injustices of this nation for many, many years. And we're going to try and fix it. So thank you for the efforts on that particular part. You mentioned the Constitution there before, Pete. So there is something of a constitutional battle going on behind the scenes at the moment. You know, constitutions work, constitutions don't work. At the moment, well, tell us where you're at the moment with what you feel about constitutions. And I would ask, I don't know if anybody knows Madison King. I've reached out a couple of times. She's not returning DMs. Maybe she doesn't like what I talk about, but she's starting on this journey herself at the moment. She's just starting to learn. And in one of her posts today, I encouraged her to do some examination of the Treaty of Versailles. And I'm gathering, Pete, that plays a very large role in what you're about to tell us.
Yes, that's correct. But when we talk about the Constitution, just for a moment before we go back in time, is that anybody looking at the Australia Act, which altered our Constitution, which you can't do under Section 128, but Section 1 of the Australia Act basically says that the Crown can have no dealing in our affairs from 1986 forwards, including the Constitution. It doesn't spell out the Constitution, but it basically says the British Parliaments have got no right to affect any of our acts moving forward from 1986 onwards. So that's why
the Australian people did not vote for the Australia Act. They didn't vote it in. It was surreptitiously brought in, wasn't it?
That's correct. They used Section 51, some number, to usher it in using the state parliaments, what's called a single entrenched referendum. That means inside the Parliament House, a double entrenchment. And double entrenched referendum is where all the public's involved, but they used a single entrenched referendum inside their state Parliament's house to request that the federal parliaments enact the Australia Act. But as I said, very importantly, everybody reads Section 1. I don't know it word for word in my head, but it clearly does say that the United Kingdom can now no longer, none of their acts apply after the Australia Act commences. And that's why, and it took me a long time to work it out, that's why when you bring in constitutional stuff into the court, they just go, no way, we're not listening to that. That's shit. But there's more to the Constitution that meets the eye. So not only did they cancel it then, but we'll now go back to 1919 and the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. Now, the Treaty of Versailles, to those constitutionalists who say, no, the Quicken-Garran Constitution, it's here. And to get rid of it, you need to, apply Section 128 to alter or get rid of it. Well, that's crap and it's clearly crap because in 1919, not only did Prime Minister Hughes go over to to France to sign the Treaty of Versailles, representing the 71,720 troops that died in the First World War and 150,000 injured, and that was more per capita than any other nation in the world. But he also went over there with Mr. Garran, who was the writer of the Constitution, to terminate the Constitution. So basically, our independence was born in blood. And so from that, that's right. And so are you bringing up the Treaty of Versailles there?
Yes, yeah.
Can we go and have a look at section 10, please? And if I could get you to read it out, because it's a little bit small on my screen.
Article 10.
Article 10 of the Treaty of Versailles.
The members of the League undertake to respect and preserve as against external aggression the territorial integrity and existing political independence of all members of the League. In case of any such aggression or in case of any such threat or danger of such aggression, the Council shall advise upon the means by which this obligation shall be fulfilled.
Right. Now, so basically what that's saying is that when we signed that, that was part one of the League of Nations, of the Charter of the League of Nations signed in 1920, which 32 other nations signed with each other. So we signed the French ones, and the French ones signed ours, and we signed the German ones signed ours, and all those other nations around the world, everybody signed the covenant. So 1 billion people were represented so that no other nation can use its laws over another nation. So we all signed it. And some of the constitution will say, oh, no, it's a contract between the people and the constitution. No, it's not. It may be in tiny part, but let's look at the reality of it. If the Prime Minister and some of the cabinet from Australia go over there and sign it, and the Prime Minister of England, being that the Constitution's an act of the British Parliament, go over and they sign it together. Like I was saying, if the Constitution Act is an act of the British Parliament, they own it. And so if they're signing an agreement to get rid of it, it's gone, because we don't own the Constitution. It's an act of the British Parliament. It's not an act of the Australian government. And when we start looking at the real numbers, how many people voted for the Constitution in 1900? I'm telling you, it's less than 10% of the population. So,
right.
So if you were to do the numbers and you went out into the public and you said, because every contract involves informed consent. If you don't know what's in there, then it's not a contract. It's being done foolishly. So if you imagine, Carl, if we went out into the public and said to the public, hey, do you have informed consent that we're using the British Constitution today in 2026? I reckon about 80 of them would say, 90% of them would say, what's a constitution?
I think you're probably right.
Yep. Reality fact. So there's no informed consent of that contract. So if we look at go back to if we can bring up the Charter of the League of Nations, and we can just have a quick look at Section 10. It's very similar to Section 10 of the Treaty of Versailles, because the Treaty of Versailles was the prelude to joining the League of Nations as a nation with its own personality. And some of the constitution will say to me, oh, no, again, you've got to have a referendum. Yeah, but if the owners of the Constitution sack it, and they're the owners of it, that means it doesn't exist here anymore. And why would you want to have a referendum in the country to free yourself of the colonial powers?
Yeah. It's starting to...
They've just really, all the constitutionalists are great fighters. They've put a lot on the line, but they just haven't found all the things that they need to find yet. No, that's the United Nations Charter. We want Charter of the League of Nations, 1920, please.
Okay, 1 second.
So it's basically like saying to a bird, here, I'll open the cage door and you can fly free out into the wilderness. Or would you like to have a little vote in your cage with all your other birds to see if you're able to fly out? Because in 1920, we became a nation with its own personality to be able to have a say as an international personality in international affairs. Otherwise, we would still be going through the British Parliament.
Sorry, mate, I've lost this page. I'll just get it back.
No, that's okay.
The Covenant of the League of Nations is what we're looking for.
Yeah, so if we can just go to Section 10 of that. So once that was signed, I think it was on, I'll just get my notes out here because I can't remember all these dates. It was signed on the 10th of January 1920. The moment we signed that, the Constitution became unlawful to use here. And we'll prove this when we move on a little bit further. But there will be some questions moving further forward. I've probably got it here if it helps you.
No, I've got the some of it's French, and then there's an English translation underneath it. So article, which one did you want, or did you want
Article 10?
Article 10 is there. The members of the League undertake to respect and preserve, as against the external aggression, the territorial integrity and existing political independence of all members of the League. In case of any such aggression, or in case of any threat or danger of such aggression, the Council shall advise upon the means by which this obligation shall be fulfilled.
So it's basically almost identical to Section 10 in the Treaty of Versailles. But what I want to point out here is if we can go down to Article 20.
Jumped one.
Yeah, Article 20. Now, can I just get you to read out the bottom half of it there, what it talks about? And it talks about that if you've got any obligations to any other countries,
in case any member of the League shall before become in case any member of the League shall before becoming a member of the League have undertaken any obligations inconsistent with the terms of this covenant, it shall be the duty of such member to take immediate steps to procure its release from such obligations.
That means get rid of the crown.
That's exactly what that means.
Exactly. So, look, as you know, Carl, in our newspapers, we went down the constitutional route, even though in edition 2, we did put the League of Nations in there. And people seem to think that statement said by Harry Gibbs, I've therefore come to the conclusion the current legal and political system in use in Australia's states, territories, has no basis in law. That statement is based on the Treaty of Versailles and the League and the Charter of the League of Nations. That's what it is. Because he even admits in that statement on page 25 of edition 2, that he was wrong in thinking beforehand that, we are a proper constitutional monarchy. But look, if the king and the parliamentarians of the United Kingdom sign the Treaty of Versailles, and our parliamentary members here signed the Treaty of Versailles, and not only that, ratified it in the parliament, and we've got the parliamentary papers, the Constitution's dead and it becomes unlawful to use here. And so we can travel a little bit further on now. So for the people who think, look, I even had it the other day from a certain man, a great fighter. And I won't be mentioning names here because they're just not, they do the same thing a lot of times and they get stuck on that hamster wheel, but you've got to have your door open, be willing to learn. I was on the constitutional hamster wheel and I've seen the lights there. We've got to go down this road. We're not going to win with domestic law in international courts. The courts here are finished. They are absolute lying, thieving rats that will never, ever tell the truth and run over your argument to save their jobs. Because if one of them turns around and says, Mr. Horton, you're right. Yeah, bang, there's the noose straight away. Yep. On not only him, on everybody else. So they're hanging on by the skin of their nails. So
but they are, and they've been doing it forever. They've been dug in like ticks for centuries. So this level of knowledge, though, to my knowledge, hasn't been widely available. There are those, and I see his name's popped up again here tonight, Wayne Glue. Now, have you had anything to do with Wayne and heard what he's doing constitutionally, and how does that sit
love
with what
Wayne.
You're talking about?
But Wayne will be another one that says, Constitution, we've got to, have a referendum. Do we really have to have a referendum? Does common sense come into play when we say, okay, we were 6 colonies or 7 colonies or whatever it was? Do we really need, and we were joined at federation by the vote of 10,000 or 10%. and only 8% voted for that constitution to be written in 1896 or 1895. They put a referendum out then. Do we want to have an independent federal nation, indissoluble? And only 8% voted for it, but only 10% voted for it in 1900. So it's 1 in 10 of the population. So it's not valid.
And this has to be prosecuted as well inside the ICC, I would have thought, does it? Because how do you get any kind of lawful justice out of an unlawful government and judiciary?
That's correct. This is why we're going international, to use international law. If we took the Constitution into those courts, they'd just go, get lost. That's an act of the British Parliament. It doesn't belong here. We don't own it. You don't own it. And it doesn't work in the international arena. But what does work in the international arena is the Charter of the League of Nations. And, I won't say I'm not a big fan of the United Nations because of what I hear, but we can move on now and have a quick look at the United Nations Article 2 and paragraph 1 and 4, and I'll get you to read them out because this is just more evidence saying that the League of Nations became the United Nations.
Yes.
And they're saying the same thing. They're saying the same thing. That
Article 4?
No, Article 2.
Article 2. Keep going, Carl. There we go. 1, 2. Article 2. Oh, it's a short one. The action of the League under this covenant shall be effected through the instruments of the Assembly and the Council with permanent secretariat.
Hang on. Article 2, paragraph 1.
Oh, hang on. Am I still reading the...
No, you're reading the United Nations Charter now from 1945.
Sorry, I need to bring that one back up again. Let me remove that. Oh, no, that one wasn't there. Let me see if I can bring up another one.
Because we can prove these things in the international arena, we can't, like I said, we can't take domestic law into the international arena. And look, I spoke to a couple of constitutionalists yesterday. I love them. They're great fighters. They really are. But the thing is, it's never going to work in this country. So we need to take another angle. This is about strategy, not about having an argument with my friends or my fellow fighters that are freedom fighters in this nation. It's not about having an argument with them about who's wrong or right. It's about what's going to work.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Because, they can argue the intricacies of we need a vote, but it's clearly knocked on its head when you simply turn around and say, well, the Parliament of the United Kingdom signed it, the King signed it, the owners of the Constitution, and Australia signed it, and we ratified it in Parliament to be an independent sovereign nation with its freedoms and its own personality as a nation in the international arena. Do we really need to have a referendum for that? I mean, logic has got to, come in sooner or later. And the fact that, like I said, how many people have got informed consent that the Constitution Act of the UK or the British Parliament is running this nation, even though the first 8 clauses aren't in there in the Australia's Constitution. But the problem is that even Sue versus Hill said the UK was a foreign power. And many people say, oh, well, that wasn't done correctly. But they talk about in that case how, slowly, progressively over time, Australia became a sovereign and independent nation. No, it didn't. It became a sovereign and independent nation when we signed that Treaty of Versailles, an international agreement representing 1 billion people for freedom for all its nations, not to have foreign interference in any of those nations' political affairs. And cementing that with the signing of the Charter of the League of Nations. Okay, can we read out Article 2, paragraph 1, please?
Article 2, paragraph 1. The organisation is based on the principle of the sovereign equality of all its members.
Bang. Right? Bang. Australia's a signatory to it. And Australia has ratified this act in their parliament. And you can simply look it up yourself. You just go onto Austerlei or one of the government apps that you can look up these things, and you'll see it's got a big long spiel there about sort of, 4 or 5 pages long about the United Nations Charter, and then it's got the charter underneath it. And this charter that you're looking up now is on there. So what does Article 2, paragraph 4 say?
All members shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations.
Right, bang. Can Crown law be used in this nation?
I would have thought not.
Well, that's telling it can't be. Paragraph 1's telling it can't be. Paragraph 4's telling you it can't be. Article 10 of the League of Nations.
League of Nations.
Yeah, the Charter of the League of Nations says you can't, and Section 20, which we just read out before, says that even if you are under the rulings or you've signed up something before, you must get rid of it straight away. You've got to actively take part in getting rid of that crown in 1920. So this
is Article 10 of the League of Nations.
No, that's
I think.
Hang on. No, are we on the United Nations Charter now, though?
No, I just changed it back over. And then if I take it back to the United Nations Charter, it's that. So
Article 2, paragraph 1 and 4. That's right. It's telling you.
Yeah.
Can't use Crown law here.
Yeah. It's
actually terrorism, which we all know it is, because what have we got? We got brutal coppers bashing the people on the streets like the other day in Sydney.
Yeah.
There's no need to put somebody on their face down, put them in handcuffs and punch them 10 or 20 times in the kidneys.
Yeah.
These people are using acts of aggression against the people. They don't care. They have no conscience. And when we talk about the COVID vaccine and how it accelerates things, well, in my opinion, if you've got a leg injury, it accelerates that. You've got a knee injury, it accelerates that. But if you're a dickhead and you want to bash people up and you have no conscience, it accelerates that, provenly shown clearly by the coppers, beating people up. I mean, that guy that got ran into by the guy on the push bike, he had his hands in the air.
Yeah.
And I was at a local shop the other day, Donna and I were, and we heard this guy talking about that he was a documentary maker. Anyway, he was talking quite loudly, so I approached him after and said, look, I'm sorry, you were talking quite loud and we heard that you're a documentary maker. And he went, yeah. Anyway, so we made quite good friends of him. And then he tells us, he shows us all this bark off him and everything and goes, yeah, I got bashed up and arrested by the coppers yesterday because I was down at the protest, getting ready to take notes and doing some filming. They bashed him up for no reason, charged him with assault police, put him in the cells. He's like 75. Put him in the cells for 7 or 8 hours with no water or anything like that. No medical, to put anything on his wounds or anything because they scraped him with the bitumen. And then said to him, oh, well, we've dropped the charges. And he goes, no, I want to charge the police. Yeah. They're like, well, good luck. See you later. Go and see how you go with it. Would you like to tell our police investigators about it? And they'll surely do something about it. I mean, it's a freaking joke, isn't it? Because they're all wearing that St. Edward's crown on their badge, which means they're committing. They're not. People say, they're like the Constitution will say, it's treason. It's treason. No, it's not. The Crown knew exactly what was going on. Are you telling me the Crown and its people are that stupid they didn't know about Queen of Australia? Are we saying that the Crown's that stupid they didn't know that we signed the Treaty of Versailles, including the King signing it? I mean, enough's enough. The people have got to just keep researching these constitutional people and just do your homework, for goodness sake. And I want to say, I was one of them people before where I'd go, Constitution, but every day, if you don't leave your door open, you won't learn anymore. And if you think you know everything, then that's the time you stop learning.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. I'm just going to address Darren Bergworth, who's been saying the same thing 4 or 5 or 6 times in the chat Wasn't funny the first time, Darren. I don't think it's funny now, although the fact that you keep trying to press it is slightly amusing, if nothing else. The comment that he's pushing is about Pauline Hanson coming to save the nation. So, Peter, let's talk about it quickly because I know you've got somewhere else to be. One Nation are riding a wave of support at the moment, popular and otherwise, and it has taken a lot of people from, let's call it, the free dumb movement, and they have been encouraged by what they hear. The Liberal Party have come out today and basically mealy-mouthed the immigration policy of One Nation. They've come out and said they could stop people coming from certain regions from within certain countries. They haven't said they're going to stop the shit people coming into this country at all. So One Nation and elections. I mean, you and I and Darren are broadly on the same point, on the same of the same idea. I don't think we can vote our way out of this. But are we not? Do we not have to give the people the chance through One Nation, even if it is to see that it can't be voted, that we can't vote our way out of this? What's your advice to people who are torn?
No way. They are under the Australian Constitution, which all the parliamentary members swear an allegiance to the Crown. And it's that dumb that when you look at Sue versus Hill, what did Sue versus Hill say? Sue versus Hill said that the United Kingdom was a foreign entity to Australia. And if you look at Section 44 of the Constitution, it says if you've got any foreign allegiances to another nation, then you're instantly disqualified. So if Sue versus Hill in July 1999 saying that the United Kingdom's a foreign power, and Section 44 of their Constitution, the Act of the British Parliament, says you can't have an allegiance to a foreign power, the whole thing's a bit, it's a pile of shit. And so you can't, I'll put it this way, can you polish a turd?
Well, you can try. It smears a bit, but it's certainly not going to get shiny.
Well, that's what they're trying to do, right? And you can't do it. It's not going to happen. And look, they're scratching for a way out, but when the people wake up, that under international law, the Crown is not allowed to be here. When you merely look at those acts or those articles that we looked at, it's a much easier argument than the Constitution. If the Constitution got us into this trouble and allowed this trouble to happen, do you really want it back there? It's basically like saying to the banks, give the banks all this money when they already owe us all these trillions of dollars. We're not going to give the banks all the money. We're going to take over the banks.
This evidence that you've put a great deal of time into putting together and are going to prosecute around the world, how is that going to play out here before the next election so that the people miraculously wake up and feel that we don't need to go to an election and vote for anything because it's not going to change? What is going to be the tipping point, do you feel, when people give up the idea of elections? Because that's what Darren's advocating and all that kind of thing. We can't vote our way out of this. And I got to admit, I agree. We can't vote our way out of it. But without voicing it, there is precious few other steps to be taken. And I don't think that the country's in any position yet to do that. Right now, they're pinning their hopes on One Nation.
Well, that's right. We got nowhere else to pin it, but I can't talk too much about
that's what I'm asking you. Is there going to be something that we can pin that hope to? Or are we just destined to be having this conversation again in 2 years?
No, absolutely. We're going to have the biggest go we can possibly have in the international courts arena and attempt to get certain declarations done there and certain court orders. And as you know, that and Darren is a great man. He's been through a lot of yards with the My Place system and learn a lot more than many other have in a real short amount of time. So look, Darren and I are two of the trustees, and Donna, three of the trustees out of the 12 that have the ability to collect the 12,000 metric tons of gold that was given to the Australian Central Bank, which is now the Reserve Bank, in 1966. So we'll be making certain actions in the international court arena to get court orders for that to be returned in a certain manner of way. I mean, this is like I said, I can't talk too much about where that's heading to, but to give some people just a little bit of hope that there's definitely things moving in the background. We'll be making these applications into 4 different courts in relation to the lawfulness of this nation, because we're not going to win in this nation with these court systems here. They're rotten to the core, and they're all protected by rotten people.
Yep.
So, so that's the idea. That's the idea, to get sort of court orders internationally, and then we'll see how they go with
those
that.
Court orders presumably would have the military acting as the enforcer of the orders.
Well, potentially. I can't talk too much about what those movements are moving forward, and we haven't done them yet, so I don't want to sort of signal too far. And we have multiple ways that we can go on the platform, because there are multiple ways to go.
Yep.
But once people becomes mainstream knowledge that there's no law in this nation, there's no law in this nation internationally. Internationally is only recognised Australia because Australia produces so much goods out of the ground here, and they have to do commerce with us. So that's its own real standing. But once these international courts and under the RICO Act in America find out that this court system's been colluding the suppression orders on all the pedos around that are running this nation, the Mulligan inquiry, 250 odd people named in that inquiry, only 3 people charged, and a 90-year suppression order put on it. And look, we've got Port Arthur, 36 people killed, 25 people injured, and we've got a suppression order. And then you've got the Wood Royal Commission, the same thing, this massive long suppression order, and we can go back to the statement that was said about the judge. The judge in the Wood said in the Royal Commission that if the Royal Commission keeps going, the people will lose faith in the judiciary. No shit, Sherlock. That's right, but you're concealing it. So it comes under the RICO Act, and we think they're going to have a lot of problems with that.
Yep, there is a YouTube video with George Brandis actually saying that in Senate estimates. I think it's in front of Heffernan, where he says, the government will never release this. It'll compromise government, full stop. So it would bugger the trust of the people. Well, the people's trust 20 years down the track, George, is pretty well rooted in government. So look out, we're coming.
We're full-blown criminals.
Yeah, 100%. All right, people, just to encourage people one more time, fill in the affidavit. Go and download it either at vofhq.com. It's on the top of the first page, or go to corruptionwhistleblower.com and just scroll down. It's just underneath the first set of videos that you come to on the Corruption Whistleblower page. And fill out the affidavit and return it. Email it back, but you'll see the address on there as well. Mail the hard copy to that South Australian PO box, and wait, because the idea is to get, like you say, many thousands of them, and there will be a bit of a trip involved. I gather you'll be going to The Hague to present in person.
That's correct. Yep, there'll be quite a few of us going. And look, for the people who fill out the affidavits, the victim impact statements, try not to stress if things don't happen straight away, because we are in the collection process. It is a bit of a timely matter, but for everyone that gets sent in, we're building up our ammunition, and they'll be the test of time to see what these international courts do and see how wide their eyes open when we file the grand jury indictments in there, and potentially 4,000 or 5,000 victim impact statements. And like I said, we get called quite often, and it really does. We get hurt by it, but it drives us forward. The things that have been done to the people in this nation are absolutely disgusting.
Couldn't agree more with you, brother. All right. Thank you for your time tonight. I'll let you go back and have dinner with Donna, and or get back to the paperwork, whichever way that works.
Thank you,
and I I look forward to catching up with you. And details for a place to catch up in Melbourne, folks, you can either email me, carl@vofhq.com, or info@corruptionwhistleblower.com, and I'll pass it along, or you can go straight to Pete that way. Pete, I'm going to send you an email about a venue that I have heard about in Melbourne. We'll have to have a look at and see whether or not it's suitable.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Good on you, mate. Cheers. Talk to you soon. Peter Horton from the Corruption Whistleblower. I urge you, if you haven't already done so, you can download copies of the Corruption Whistleblower at their website. And they're not just newspapers. They are bodies of evidence, briefs of evidence. And certainly will help you open your eyes to a number of the arguments that are being put forward in the last few years by various different parties. Very quickly, I'm going to touch on a couple of little things before we go tonight. I mentioned it before. The Liberal Party are proposing to ban immigrants from terror-controlled regions in 13 countries. That includes Egypt, Palestine, and the Philippines, Afghanistan, Algeria, Cameroon, Egypt, Lebanon, Libya, Mali, Nigeria, Niger, Palestine, Gaza, Somalia, and Yemen. So, okay, they're talking about maybe the ones that come from the terrorist countries. All right, all well and good, but I don't think they're the ones that are filling up the houses. They're not the ones that are having deals done with their government to bring over 1 million of their own people to build houses here for Australians, apparently. 1 million houses. Don't get me started on the government's bloody housing bill, the big building bill that they put out, I think, in their last term, and they're still trying to figure out exactly how many houses have been built. One, I think, and the rest have been purchased for well above the odds. It's just the biggest rip-off, and there's been another $10 billion or something thrown at it recently too. So the Liberals are coming out with new strategies, and funnily enough, they tend to look a lot like One Nation strategies. A new poll commissioned by Sky News has come out that shows exactly how much One Nation have gained over the coalition and how they are gaining on Labor. Another month or so, and I think One Nation would be the preferred party in the nation for ruling or leadership. Now, I understand we have a few issues with leadership in this country, and whether or not voting is the way to go, we'll leave all that for another night. I would personally say, not my way of doing things, because when you vote people in, they tend to want to digitize you. And this is exactly what is happening in Victoria right now. Victoria has launched a digital birth certificate. It's a trial. You know how trials start, don't you? They're going to link newborns to the new national digital ID system that you didn't know was already in operation, did you? Did you know that? Yeah, it may not work for you and I until you need a hospital or you need to go in for something, and they're just going to say, oh, this just makes it so much easier. And you will be snaveled up inside the system if you haven't already been. And, of course, that kind of bastardry only happens in Victoria, where you really go for the best time and best job. Sex, highs, and videotape was the latest headline, I think, coming out of Victoria. This is to do with, of course, the CFMEU and what has transpired with the CFMEU in Victoria should be a warning to every government in every state government in this country, except most of the state governments in this country are in fact Labor governments and would encourage the thievery, the debauchery, the criminality that comes with the CFMEU. Now, the CFMEU, like other corrupt unions before it, and I'm old enough to remember the BLF in Melbourne with Norm Gallagher, I think his name was, who ran it. He was an interesting old type. Now, these CFMEU types, these construction industry types, sniff around the big jobs and they take control. Victoria has had a plan of, big builds for some years through the Dan Andrews and Allen governments. And, of course, it's now looking like more than $30 billion was misappropriated through those builds and funneled directly into the hands of criminals. Queensland has a little bit of a problem on its hands because we have the Olympics coming our way in 2032. And while there were promises made that there will be no new stadiums, bugger me dead, they're building a new stadium. And I just wonder what the cost blowouts on that might be. But it looks like the new Liberal Premier, at least outwardly, seems to be aware
they put their political interests ahead of the interests of Queenslanders. 77,000 fewer homes, up to $38.6 billion in costs. Queensland infrastructure not delivered on time or on budget, and they were prepared to sacrifice it all for their mates in the CFMEU. Think about it from the perspective of the young tradie who wants to be able to go to work, be safe, be productive, and know that the next job will be there. Think about it from the public servants who they allowed to be bullied and intimidated and harassed because they put the interests of their mates over the interests of the people who serve. And every day we have to reverse that culture, productivity back on sites. That's what Queensland has expired.
Well, he's speaking all the right words, I guess. We'll just wait and see what happens. But that level of criminality does tend to spread outwards, and Victoria has exported more than one or two tradies and union officials in Queensland's general direction. So it'll be interesting to see if there is going to be an investigation and what comes out of any investigation into Queensland and its building practices. I'm going to leave you with one last thing tonight. Now, if you're easily offended, you better look away. But if you ever needed more proof that our society is being engineered, that we are being sprayed with chemicals and elements that have the ability to alter our DNA, to alter various parts of our body and make us sick or, develop problems, various different issues in certain areas. Swelling seems to be an issue that has happened in a lot of people. Unfortunately, now we are seeing it in dogs. And the only question I have is, if your dog has been sprayed by this chemical, look out. And what are you going to name it? Seriously. I shit you not, that's not an AI video. That's a real dog. That's a dachshund. I mean, what are you going to name him? Gravel? Rash? Drag? Stump? Bloody hell. Hell of a dog. There's a line there I want to do about dickheads on the road, but I think I've pushed it far enough tonight. Have yourself a good night. See you tomorrow.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!